Closing is always easy when you're in Cardone U. We role play with Grant Cardone's team. They know just what to do. They're always there to support us. We couldn't ask for more. On our way in the right direction, we found what we're looking for. In FLC, closing is better with appointment setters. You'd better believe we're not a team but a family. We work together in harmony. We are devoted, on that you can quote me, in FLC.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the FLC Hangout, where your freedom lifestyle begins. And today I am so excited to say we have another very special guest, Thomas Jenkins, who is a friend of the FLC core family. We go, I don't know how long back, but we're very familiar with each other. And so I'm so excited to have you here. And this guy is an absolute genius in all things sales, marketing, getting better, 10xing. So the subject that we're going to be talking about and going over is sales, marketing, education. How do they all link? Why do you need to know all of these? How can one work without the other? Trick question, it can't. So let's get into it. So without further ado, Misty, over to you.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us again today. We are so excited to be here and to bring you more powerful informational content. And like Jesse said, we have Thomas here with us today. Thomas, we're going to pick your brain. But first of all, why don't you give us a little bit of backstory on you, give us a little bit of information, who you are, what you do, and we'll start with the powerful questions after that.
Absolutely. Let's do this how we do it on my Facebook channel. Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Thomas Jenkins and I'm about to drop some nuggets of wisdom and knowledge on you, at least wisdom and knowledge as I see it. Now for today's topic, we're going to be talking about the intersections between sales, marketing, and education. Now a little bit about me. I have an education background, went to school to become an actor first and foremost, decided I didn't like the industry, jumped into education because I saw a need in education. And now when I was there, I was like, shoot, let's just do the whole thing. So I got a minor in physical education and a minor also in youth ministry. After that, I worked for Disney for a short stint of time in their college program, worked for another company in medical, did quality control. Fast forward, started working for institutions of higher education, all the while helping my father with his advertising and branding agency. So that's just a little bit about me. I'd love to start with the hard questions.
Awesome.
Wow,
let's get something
is
simple going first, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jesse. Let's get something simple going first. I want to ask a question. How can sales and marketing teams work together to create effective educational content for their customers?
Okay, yeah. So I love this question. So when we're talking about companies, there are a couple different types of education that happens. There is internal compliance education, right? So if you have a big company, now this, I think for a lot of our viewers who are like solo entrepreneurs, this doesn't necessarily apply to you, but it will in the future if you're deciding to scale. So you have what's called compliance training. That's your human resources training. That's your LinkedIn learning, where people are, I'm sorry for the brand drop, but it's basically helping your team grow and continue to grow their base and their knowledge, right? Then there is what we call B2C, and this is what Trabaria does, where she's selling a course to a customer. So you're a company and you're selling, you're training to a customer. And then there is actual customer education, which is totally different. So this is education that's made to for the customer on your product and how to use that product. So when we're looking at how to create that kind of training, it's one of the things that you have to do is really think about the customer's experience with that product, right? When they first unpackage it, right? Whether it be a software, a physical product, you really need to look at how, when they get it, what's the first thing they're going to want to do with it? And you got to walk them through all the different steps. You see this a lot of times in softwares where it gets like a gray screen. It's like, click here first, and then do this, do that. That's all customer training, but it's built into the software. So I don't know if I answered your question, but ultimately when you're designing, what marketing teams and sales teams need to realize is that a lot of that is built on experience, right? What's the experience you want to have, right? This is UX design, right? User experience design is really into that whole, like, what am I going to feel? What's the next step? And how can I get them onboarding as fast as possible so that they're winning with it? Because the more they win with it, the more they stay in your ecosystem. And that's ultimately a lot of what education is about and course is about, is how do we keep them in our ecosystem to get them to that next thing?
Ooh, I love that. This, by the way, can we just take a minute to appreciate how 10x Thomas is? And he takes going full out and giving 100%. So to the next level. So I really appreciate you for that, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out, guys, we see Thomas on a daily basis. We're all in different, countries, and I think Thomas and I are in the US, but we're in different states. Josie's in the UK. So we're in different areas of the world. But you know what? We see Thomas every day, and every day he brings his A game, which is something we all need to learn from and do, and keep that consistency with that, right? Bring in your A game. And he is 10x all the time. We see him every morning on the Cardone Sales Rally training. He is phenomenal. The coaches are sitting there trying to give us information and where you can find things, and he's right there with that information before they even finish their sentence. So he's on it. He's like, brings everything. So when he's saying something, you really need to bring out your pen and paper, take notes. You need to follow this guy, and kind of learn from him, take what he's doing and apply it to you, and 10x your own life. Josie, I'll let you ask the next question.
Oh, can I say something real quick about that?
Absolutely.
It's really interesting because so I have a bunch of different business coaches for a bunch of different things. So when we're saying 10x, we're talking about the Grant Cardone community and learning sales. And so I actually hired another coach inside the Grant Cardone ecosystem. His name is Danny. We call him Champ. He has a business under Grant's business. One of his main businesses is TriWorld. So I hired Danny, and one of the things we talked about this week was basically in Grant's training, he talks about your potential versus a quota. And I think a lot of times when we're looking at anything that we're doing, I think a lot of times we're looking at quotas, like what's the number we need to hit, like how many sales call. And he called me out this week. He's like, dude, you're working towards a quota. You're not working towards your potential. And a potential is really interesting because Brandon talks about, and this is really important for all us solo entrepreneurs here. He talks about the lid, right? So in growing a business, the business can only grow as high as the leadership, right? And each leadership will have a lid, right? As much knowledge or wisdom they have. And then they have to outsource. They have to bring people in to increase that lid. They have to increase that knowledge. Well, the same thing kind of happens with potential. Like you have a potential ceiling, right? And then you have to break through it, right? Let's say, for example, if it's like shooting baskets and you make, 9 out of 10. Well, 9 out of 10 is, your potential at that point, but you can get to a point where you're like 20 out of 20 or 100 out of 100. You keep on pushing your potential. So it's never really capped. Same thing with the leadership. Like your leadership skills have to continue to grow if you want your company to grow. And so it's really interesting you're talking about that, because I was actually called out this week that I'm working too much towards quotas. And that's because I think so often we hear about like creating your goals, hitting your targets, and we focus so much on those numbers and not working past those numbers. So I love the fact that you brought that up, because that's something that I'm really living in and wrestling with right now.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. And I do have a question, by the way, but it's so true that you never actually know how far you can go until you push 100% and 110%. And you'll be surprised actually how much you can do. And I've noticed this recently too. The minute you start actually going for failure and pushing and pushing and pushing. So thank you for that. I did have a question as well, that anyone kind of new to business and just starting, so we're talking sales, marketing, education, they all go hand in hand.
Yes.
But some people it just might be them, and it might be really like overwhelming. Is there one, should they focus a little bit on each, or is there one to kind of start with, or how would you go about that for a new person in business?
Yeah, so I'm going to reference what Grant Cardone says. So Grant Cardone for many years was saying that sales is the thing, right? Do sales, right? And then I would say maybe about like 10 years ago, maybe less, he started saying that marketing is senior to sales. And the way he talks about marketing is getting out of obscurity and getting people to know you. He has a famous saying if I don't know you, I can't flow you, right? He even says that a salesperson can only make so much money, right? And they get capped versus a person who markets can make more money. That he believes someone who knows how to market, if they're really bad at sales, that they can actually probably make more money still than the person who's really good at sales. I'm also going to reference someone else named Andrew Cordell. Andrew Cordell was in the real estate industry for many, many years, and he just recently came out with an Instagram post where he actually said that in his hierarchy, it's sales, marketing, branding. He believes that branding, like you'll make the most money when you have a quality brand because his brands create an emotion. I would say that Grant Cardone would clump branding and marketing all together and would start out the front. So if you're starting out, I would say that the first thing you need to do is, because you are your brand and people are going to experience you, you need to get really clear about who you are, what you represent, and how you are communicating that with the clothes you wear, the things you say, how you hold yourself. Those are things that people notice first before you even think about selling or anything, because that's what you're going to be putting out there into the universe, and that's what people are going to be receiving. So when you're marketing yourself, when you're getting out of obscurity, and I think people are asking like, well, how to get out of obscurity? Well, a lot of people would say, social media marketing in the sense of like, organic leads, getting out, doing lives, creating posts. Grant would say, whatever post you put out there, assume people don't see it and post again. Post as frequently as you can. Post until Facebook and Twitter tell you you're posting too much. That's how much you want to post. I would say that is the way to get out there. Another thing, so Brendan Bouchard and I would say Pete Vargas would talk about using other people's stages. So this is what we're doing right now. I'm using the FLC stage, right? You're using my stage. So we're sharing stages. So my audience and your audience are being shared. I would say that's a very powerful way to get out of obscurity. Brendan Bouchard calls it jumping on someone else's train. He uses the analogy of when you build a train track, right? Like you could build your own train track, you can build your own train, you can build your own station, and that's going to take many, many years. Why not just jump on someone else's train who's just coming by you and you can go for a ride? And then as you continue to develop, leads and stuff, you can begin to build your own train track later. But at this point, jump on other people's trains as you're going from station to station. And for our people in England, go on the tube, jump on the tube.
Oh my God. I don't know if anyone's seen the blooper reel yet, but Thomas has been having some fun with me being British. British. That was very British. Oh, thank you so much.
I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I feel like a lot of people that I interact with anyway, and in the FLC family, which I'm the most familiar with, are just starting, and it is just them. And it can seem overwhelming when you don't have a team. And I know that like people want to do all this, and this, but sometimes you need to, I don't know, think of like, okay, what can I do? Not focus on, oh, I can't do this because I don't have a team. What can you do? So yeah, that was brilliant. Thank you. And you actually reminded me of a saying that Shabaria says a lot. She quotes it from someone, which I cannot remember. If I remember, I'll put it on the screen now. If you want to go fast, you go alone. And if you want to go far, you go together. And this is what we're doing. We're going together. We're, like you said, we're using each other and jumping on the tube. So let's go.
And to the point about education, I think a lot of times, and I don't want to point fingers, but I think when we look at how the education, what's the term? There's a special term. The knowledge industry, I think is what they call it now. The educational knowledge industry. We're selling courses and trainings and whatnot. I think when that first came out, Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins, they partnered up and they made it a big deal. And one of the things they talked about was give away your information for free. Just start giving information, right? Start teaching people what you know, and then people are gonna start trusting you, and they'll be like, I can't believe you gave away this information. And what we're seeing is that worked for a short period of time, and since everyone's doing it, I had someone once say like, all the information that's already out there, it's on the internet, right? And what people are doing when they put in a course is just make it really easy to find. So giving information is not the hard part, right? I mean, what you really need to do is paradigm shifts. And the best person who kind of teaches about this is Brandon Lucero. Brandon Lucero, he's like, stop giving away free information, right? Change people's perspective on that. And so when you are getting out of obscurity, the way to differentiate yourself, right, is to really look at what the industry norms are and what's not being said, what is assumed, but it's not true, right? There's a lot of things I know that Trabaria talks about that where she kind of looks at them and their fallacies, right? And I think I'm kind of blanking right here, but there's a lot of fallacies in business, right? And all of them aren't true, right? And so what you do is you kind of bring that fallacy to the front and you kind of expose it, and then you show how what you're doing will, addresses that. And I think that's one way to really differentiate yourself in the business world and creating your voice of authority.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
brings up a question I had. How can sales and marketing teams, how can other companies differentiate themselves and from their competitors? When they're doing their marketing and they're doing their, setting up their, if it is just them doing it, how can they, what is the best way that you see that they can set themselves apart from other people and giving education to their clients? Or even if they are going to bring on somebody else into their team, how can they educate them on and set themselves apart from everybody else, their competitors?
I love this question. This is a really good question. So I'm going to speak from my experiences. So when I was first hired on by my dad to help run his accounts, there was a debate that we got into about, is customer service really part of marketing and sales? And I said, no, it's not. Like, I really believe that customer service was its own entity. Once I got into the Grant Cardone ecosystem, and that's really what it is, it's its own little ecosystem of, we could even call ourselves a cult, a 10x cult, right? I'm still waiting for my robe, right? And my candles.
On the good side, though.
Yeah.
Right.
So really, customer service is really the first line of marketing and sales. And it goes back to, and this is the same thing in education. Think about when you're in school, right? Think about anything really outside of school. The things you remember are either good or bad experiences, right? And then your brain amplifies them and it creates a little spot in your brain. It's like, that's how you recall it. Things that are mundane, your brain kind of offloads, like, I can't have all this information. And so it really only focuses on good and bad experiences. And then your personal framework, right? The way you frame things, the way you see things will amplify or like that situation or kind of like push it down. Like if you've seen it where people are like, something really small gets really, really big, right? It's like, oh, and you're like, that wasn't that big of a situation. It's their frame, right? It's the way they see things. And so when we're talking about, what can, people who are doing marketing, sales, education, even in your home, right? They all kind of like go together. It's really, what experience are you giving people? And this goes back to you, the individual. Like, if you're starting your business, when people interact with you, when you're on the phone, how do they feel with you? Like, are you positive? One of Grant's, pillars is attitude, right? On the road to the sale, one of the first things before you even talk about sales is attitude, right? We've all had really trying experiences. Yeah, that's right. We've had all really trying experiences when we get on the phone with somebody and you could tell they don't want to be on the phone with you and it's just a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
Grant says that people who are already sold on a product, right, and they're just having problems and they're calling in to fix a problem, they're the best customers to upsell, because if you can solve their problem, more likely to want to buy from you, because now they feel there's that trust. Like, you can solve my problem, I can trust you more. So I would say, anytime you're looking at an ad, anytime you're looking at a package, anytime you're looking at an educational product, even when you go into someone's home, what experience are you giving off? Like, what feelings are you evoking? And that's really the basis of sales, marketing, education, is really emotions and experiences. I mean, I know that sounds high in the sky, but that's really what we're looking at. When I am working with clients on their educational product and I'm looking at all the information, yeah, that's great. That's the framework, right? That might be the foundation. But at the end of the day, if I just put a slab of concrete down, put some like drywall up and put a roof on, and I tell you to live in there, that's not going to be that great of experience. But if you bring someone in there who like renovates and puts all this nice furniture and it's nice and cozy and warm, and someone walks in there, that's a different experience. And so when we're talking about sales and marketing, it comes back to experience. And that's when, like, for example, with my dad and his company, we really focus on the visual branding aspect of the experience. So we do a lot of points of sale. So points of sales are going to be like your ads, your flyers, a lot of times we do brand packaging, we'll do events, and we really look at like what's the first thing someone sees, right? So goes into design hierarchy, where it's like, what's the first read, second read, third read. So I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent. I'm kind of like meshing all this stuff together. But really, in sales, like when we talk about, design hierarchy, it's kind of like the same thing in a script. You have a hierarchy, right? You have the introduction, like, hello, my name is Thomas, the reason for the call, right? The big claim, to make sure I'm not wasting your time. And then, the fact finding, it has a hierarchy. So in the same way, I would say with these marketing teams, sales teams, if you're creating an educational product family, first thing is, what experiences are the customers having? And that's the first thing. And I think Grant does a great job with this. I keep on referring back to Grant because I think the 10X community really focuses on that experience. If you've ever been to a Growth Con, if you've ever been to any one of their events, they really go over and beyond. The team dresses to the nine just to give you a quality experience. So experience is key.
Definitely. And we're actually going through a training as a team now, and where he's talking about that, and really it's your attitude and give and have all this service to, and people, Chabaria says all the time, people buy from people they know, they like, and they trust. Yep. So yeah, and that it kind of brings up a new, I had a question, but it brings up a new kind of topic about, I feel like what stops a lot of people from actually going out there and creating their business and getting their freedom lifestyle is they don't know enough. And I'm speaking from experience because I was one of these people where I felt like I need to know everything first. I can't start until I know everything about everything. So I think it's such a true and strong point that you just have the attitude and go out there and get into the marketplace and make noise. And along that, you will face different questions and different challenges. And the only way you are going to grow and learn is by starting. You're never going to get to your freedom lifestyle or where you want to be by trying to know everything first. So yeah, that was really, really strong. Thank you.
Yeah, and to your point about knowing, so there's different types of knowing. For example, in creating educational products, trainings, there is the mental knowing, right? Then there's the emotional knowing, right? And then there's actually the tactical knowing. So for example, we take a mechanic, right? A mechanic may read a book on how to work on a transmission, right? Or if it's an electric car, they might be able to look at how to remove the battery from the electrical car, right? And it might be complex, and they might know it in their head. They might know the steps, and they can repeat the steps, right? But to have the right attitude, right, is a lot different. And physically knowing how to do it over and over again is also very different, because you have to have the right disposition, especially on traditional cars that have transmissions and a block and all this other stuff. It's not easy. Sometimes you get oil and it crusts on the block, and you have to figure out what tool, and you're trying to get in there, and things are difficult. And if you're easily flustered and you don't have the right attitude, you give up, right? And so you didn't have the right emotional knowing, right? You might have the right mental knowing, you might have the physical, but you might not have the right emotional knowing. So when we're creating these experiences, these educational experiences, or when you're starting a business, having the mental know-how is a lot different than having the emotional know-how, and has a lot different than having the actual physical tactical know-how. Now, what I'll say is getting the emotional and then tactical is all about repetition. It's what one of Grant's guys says. I think Grant said it, but he says the best, which is frequency before greatness, or that the water beats the rock, which is basically this idea that the more frequent you get in it, the more confident you get in it, because you know what to expect, right? You can't expect to read something, do it one time, and be an expert. And I blame, and for anyone who's watching this, if you're a teacher or an educator, I mean, no disrespect to you, but I blame the educational systems around the world who put performance-based education, and this is even true in business, because I see this in business with KPIs, performance-based education as the way to grade somebody as opposed to growth, right? Now, I'll talk about business in a second with KPIs, but let's focus on education first. When we look at ourselves, and if we do some like digging down deep, we're constantly comparing ourselves either to our grade, like our self-worth is in the grade, or to our peers, right? And that's how we determine. The reason that you feel like you need to know something is because in school, they said if you don't know enough, you can't go to the next subject, you can't go to the next class, you can't go to the next whatever. So they're creating a cap on you. Instead of saying you were here at the bottom and you grew exponentially, you grew like 10 times what everyone else grew, right? You might have been way down here, you might be way behind, but you actually grew more because your potential was here, but you blew past your potential, right? Where someone who's really smart only stayed at their potential the entire time. They didn't grow. They grew like, so I would say that is the reason why a lot of people today, they're constantly looking for information, is because they have these previous experiences that says they're not good enough, don't trust themselves because of these past experiences. Now, if we go to KPIs in business, a lot of times we're judged on our output, right? How much can we, produce, right? Because we're going for the company. But a lot of times we're not looked at the way that we're growing, right? Because our growth is going to determine how much more output we can have. So I think that, I think going to what you're saying about wanting to know a lot, right? I think what people need to do is they need to get into a area, whether it be not area, like what I mean is like they need to find some place where they feel safe and confident and practice that thing over and over and over again and then when they have that confidence, they'll be like, yeah, I can do this. So for example, going live, right? Well, you can practice on Zoom all you want, but it's not the same thing. So they need to just feel comfortable, like, okay, I'm going to go live, and I'm going to go live in the FLC group because I know that that's my community and they're going to support me. I might not necessarily be going live on my page yet because I'm still kind of like uncertain, but once they start practicing the FLC group, they get the confidence and they see, okay, I need to talk like this, or I need to do that, then they'll definitely want to do it on their own page, because now they have a little bit more confidence. They have the emotional knowing, they have the physical, tactical knowing, and now it's all tied together. It's all tied together, and they can move forward. Here's the funny thing about learning. Once you get comfortable with that, you got to go to that next level. When that next level is going to make you feel awkward and weird, and so it's just a perpetual cycle. You just got to keep on doing that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know why I apologize. Thank you for listening.
Yeah,
Hey, we have a no sorry policy. In fact, I charge $50 for every sorry people say. So
Oh, darn it. I owe you like $200 already.
yeah.
No, it's
All
that
going
was
for a good cause, right? Just kidding.
well,
Go ahead.
exactly. No, you go ahead, Missy.
I know that in FLC, we talk a lot about being authentic when we're starting our businesses and we're telling people, showing them how to start, or even somebody who's already in business and has something established and they're wanting to grow. And we're really big on being authentic because we know that, like you guys have mentioned before, people buy from people they know, they like, and they trust. So is there any way that somebody can build the trust and relationships in their potential clients, or even clients that they already have, with the educational content?
Absolutely. So I think you hit on two things. You talked about being authentic, but you also talked about trust, and I want to hit on both of those. I think that from my personal experience, one of the things that I struggled with early on in my mid to late 20s, when I was trying to get myself out there and get known and help my father get out there and get known, was this cancel culture has really kind of caused people to second guess themselves and second guess their voice. They're so afraid of being canceled. They're so afraid of saying the wrong thing. They're so afraid of being banned from Facebook and Instagram that they really don't want to be authentic. And what we fail to realize is the people who are most polarizing are the people who are most attractive. In the early days, and I'd say in the late 90s, early 2000s, Howard Stern was a very polarizing individual. We're seeing people like Joe Rogan being very polarizing, Jordan Peterson polarizing. I'm trying to think of someone else who's polarizing. There's just a lot of people who cause a lot of either you like them or you hate them, right? Absolutely, just people like you just don't want to, you don't care about, right? And that's kind of what you need to think about, is like you're building a tribe. You don't, that the goal is to build a, you know, community and to sell to everybody. That, I mean, that's what you want to do. But ultimately, the people who are going to be your raving fans, the people who continue to buy from you, are the people who resonate with you, your message, and your company's message, right? People who buy Apple don't buy Microsoft, right? People who buy Nikes technically don't buy Adidas. I mean, they may, but I mean, if you're a raving fan of Nike, you pretty much just buy Nike, right? So the point there is to be authentic and true to yourself, and know that if there is any negative pushback, that's a good thing. And Grant would say that's a good thing, because that's an opportunity for you to address what they're saying, right? Because now they're talking about you, right? They're not focused on other things. Now you're relevant. When no one's talking about you, that's a bad place to be. So I think that, you know, as long as you're being ethical, as long as you're being authentic, and you're not intentionally trying to hurt somebody or lie or anything of that nature, I think being you is great. Now, creating trust in your educational product is really just delivering on what you promised in the front of your funnel or your sales pitch. And this is why we started Special Powers, or why I started Special Powers, is because it was my personal experience being in the educational field, and then, you know, buying educational products myself. People make big claims, right? People promise certain things, and then you buy that product or that service or whatever, and you do it, and then you don't get the end result. And then you feel like, really, like, was it me? Did I not put enough effort in? Like, you start asking these questions, and that we go back to what we were talking about earlier. You start doubting yourself. You're like, well, maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I don't have the capacity. And what's really, this is what happens a lot of times. People will look at the testimonials on the page like, well, these people did it. Why can't I do it? Like, I went through the whole thing, right? And so what I found out is a lot of times it's not the entrepreneur's fault, and it's not the customer's fault. The entrepreneur didn't realize that the way they created the course has all these different roadblocks in it, right? They don't know educational theory. They're an expert in their field of study, right? So they created the course based upon how they learn, right? This is how they learned it. And this is how the people who are on the page who are successful, they learned it, but not everybody learns that way. So there are certain people who go through that course who are going not to be successful, because the entrepreneur doesn't know how to create a course that applies to everyone's learning style. So to create a sense of trust, right? And this is why I see a lot of entrepreneurs do, is that they have, they've created these communities, they've created these areas to ensure success, right? If we can ensure success, if we can deliver on what we promise, that creates trust, and that keeps people in the ecosystem. I'd say that is the key thing when buying something that promises, or not necessarily promises, but says, this is the result that a lot of people got. If you can show how you can get there, the average person can get there, and you can help them get there, I think that creates a lot of trust.
Thank you. I love that. I think that really makes a lot of sense. And I love that you brought all that up, because I don't think we think of it. I don't think that sometimes we step out of ourselves and realize, hey, this is the way I learn, and I learn differently than other people. Maybe I need to learn how to cater to everybody and not just a certain group that I subconsciously or unknowingly set myself into. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go for it, Jesse.
Yeah, no, I love that question as well. And by the way, I really heard the accent difference when you said Nike and Adidas there. So I know it's Nike, I know it's that, but here we say Nike anyway. Also,
I'm going to actually go to the store now. I'm not joking. I'm going to the store and be like, can I get a pair of Nikes?
Say that again. Say it one more time.
Can I get a pair of Nikes?
That was kind of good. Actually, I'll give you that.
Okay, thank you.
Better than when most Americans try. Perfect. And also, just before I ask my next question, which is actually quite a nice segue from that, I love that you talked about like going live for the first time, because oh my God, if I look back at my first lives, I don't
the other day.
Yeah, I did it the other day. I didn't last long. And like we all do cold calls, right? Do you think any of our cold calls, the very first one, was like the best? No. Like we only got to the point we are now from making that first cold call. So yeah, just do it, as Nike would say.
So I have a
I
story
think I
about that.
cried
So
after my first one.
I did my first one in the car. I was doing a challenge, and it was a Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins challenge. I paid a lot of money to do this challenge, and they're like, "Okay, you got to go do a live right now." And I remember going in the car. I'm like, "I got to make sure the background looks good. I don't want to have like a bad, background. People are gonna know." So I'm in my car. I'm doing it, and then I put it down. I'm like, I want to delete it. I was like, "No, we can't delete it." So I'm like, "Okay." So then we were required to do lives every single day that week, kind of like we do at FLC, right? And I remember like I had everything set up, and I get ready to do the live, right? And you had the option to delete the live when you were done. So I do live, I'm like, that sucked, delete. And I come back, and I had family members, and they're hearing me, and they're like, "What are you doing back there?" And it literally took me, I'm not joking, an hour to get a 5-minute live because I didn't like it. I don't like the way I sound. Click delete. I don't like the way I sound. Delete. And now it's like I messed up. I'm like, I don't even care. Like whoever, no one's even watching this. Like the 20 people who actually watch this,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But that's the whole thing, right? People buy from people they know, like they trust, and like
Yeah.
you're only likable if you're relatable, and perfect isn't relatable. So yeah.
They did a study. I can't remember what YouTube channel did, but they did a study of the top YouTube channels and found out there was like 4 things that all famous YouTubers had in common, Mr. Beast and all these other people. And they found out that they skyrocketed when they got more emotional on their videos, like when they were more authentic. When you started crying, they found like crying actually created more likes. It was really interesting. It was like number 4. Like there's all these other things, like starting off with a question, framing things, like there's all these different, like, but the last thing they talked about was like if you cried on camera or you're like really emotional, people really like dove into that video.
Wow.
I wonder
Okay,
I wonder what the response is when you forget a lot.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Hang on, guys, give us a second.
There you go.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's been a dream of mine.
Oh my god, see this guy goes full out. Oh my, that was you. Yeah, I was about to, but you distracted me with that amazing performance. Thank you. Oh, that's amazing.
Now my face is all sticky and shiny.
Yeah.
You look great. You're glowing. You're glowing.
Thank you.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Yeah, no worries. So I did have a question,
Okay.
because we can be serious on this channel too. You were talking about like education and the trust with the education. So how can companies ensure that their education they're giving out is kind of up to date, accurate, and relevant to their target audience? Because I know the world, and especially the business world, is changing so much so fast. So how can they stay up to date and relevant?
Yeah, that's a great question, and this is one of the things I talk about in my sales pitch is basically this idea of what we call sustainability in education. So I would just make the assumption, and I think it's safe to assume that a lot of people, if they had the opportunity to do more work or less work, they would want to do less work. And with that assumption, what I see a lot of course creators, entrepreneurs do is they do more work when it comes to course creation. Now, what I mean by this is it's been my experience that when gurus say, "Oh, it's really easy to make a course. Go get on Zoom or get your camera and just start filming your stuff and then put it on a site like Thinkific or Kajabi or ClickFunnels or whatever. Just do that and get it out there and start selling it." What ends up happening is that content becomes dated. And it becomes dated, one, by the way you look, the things you say, all these other things. It starts dating the video. And the way that you can structure a course where the videos are evergreen. You don't have to worry about them. In fact, I talk about Legos a lot. Actually, let me do this. I actually have my daughter's Legos here. So
Let's go.
I'm actually gonna.
We're gonna build some stuff. Woohoo!
So the way this kind of works is, oh man, she's gonna hate me for this. I'm disassembling all her Legos. Okay, let's just assume that this is one piece of content, like this is a video, right? What we want to do is we want to build content with that kind of stack on top of each other like this, where we can, if I decide like, hey, this video doesn't work here and it works better down here, I can just move it down there. What happens a lot of times is that we see people build stuff like this, where it's interlocking and I can't easily strip it apart. It's stuck there and that course is stuck. And if they want to do anything great, they have to make a brand new video. So what I teach entrepreneurs to do is, hey, let's talk about the main idea behind what you're trying to communicate, and anything else that could be considered dated or could get dated, let's pull that out. And so we talk about creating evergreen courses, so that one, if you have a really good video in one of your courses and you want to create another course, you can take that video and just whoop, put in that other course over there. And so you can, and the same thing with your lives. Like, seldom do I mention dates or events in my lives, because if I ever want to use that content, I can easily just pull it out and put it inside my course. I do mention Facebook a lot because when I go live on Facebook, it kind of lags and it makes me look like that, and I hate it. So that's the only thing that I think I have inside my Facebook lives that kind of make it not usable, is like I curse out Facebook to Facebook. I think that's why they banned me for about 3 months, is I really got mad at them. But to build sustainable courses is the key thing. And to do that, you really got to get crystal clear on what the objective is. For example, if the objective is to build a funnel, right? And that's the main thing, then anything else in that course that doesn't get you to that point is superfluous. It's not needed. You could put it as bonuses, right? Stuff that, and what happens is I see a lot of people start talking about all this other stuff inside their courses and it derails the course. The other thing, and I know this has nothing to do about sustainability, but it has to do about getting people done and get them excited, is I see that because people put like so much into their course because they want to create value, they put so much stuff in their course that it's loaded and it's fat, that adult learners have an attention span of 15 minutes and we're done. Okay, I'm tired. I get home. I want 15-minute hit of my knowledge and I want to be done with it. Give me my action item. I want to be successful, right? What happens is I can't sit down and watch an hour video. I don't have time. I have kids. I have a job. I have this, whatever it is. Make it short, make it quick. Give me my action item. Give me my quick hit of adrenaline and my endorphins because I'm successful. Boom, I did the one thing. I move on to the next thing, right? Now, this does two things for the entrepreneur. One, people are successful and they want to continue to buy from you. And two, because you're stripping out the content and you're putting it in different places, you don't have just one course. You have many courses. Now you have a program. Now you can jack up the price, right? Who doesn't love more money? Can I get a ching here? Where's my sound effects person? There we go. We get more money because instead of one course for, let's say, $5,000, you could have 5 courses and now you can sell it for $12,000.
Let's go. Who doesn't like
So
that?
I know I kind of went on a tangent there. The question was really how you create trust, and basically I said sustainability, but
yeah.
Also I want to show that you can make more money too.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Thomas. You bring so much knowledge to the table and so much that we can learn from, and we're loving it. We're loving everything you're throwing at us. So guys, it's about that time to start wrapping up. Is there any last thoughts that you guys have or anything you would like to say before we start to close off?
I actually have a shameless plug. I want to plug my dad's new book. It's called Don't Blink, right? My dad is a graphic design award-winning person. Yeah, he has like 3 of those women. I got to stare at them all the time because he has it on like a shelf. But this book is Mars. It's about his life growing up in America and a little bit about the business as well. So if you want to know a little bit more about, the advertising agencies and everything else that he's ran and that I've been a part of, get the book, Don't Blink. Outside of that, Josie kind of talked about, branding, marketing, and sales, and how does that deal with education? What I'd say is that when you're looking at your course, your training, when you're looking at everything, it's all an experience and you need to brand everything. Everything needs to be branded. Like the way your backgrounds are branded, right? Everything has to be cohesive, right? Create that brand, and ultimately you are your brand, and then communicate that brand, out to your company as well. So that's it. That's all I have.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, and don't forget to cry on video. Remember that drives up.
And if you can't cry, do what Thomas did. Pour water in your face. It's all good.
And
No,
hopefully it's nothing sticky. Use water. Actually use water. Don't use like
whatever's in your pan. Yeah, no.
yeah.
That was a really good sum up. Thank you. And I just wanted to say thank you for being here and dropping all your wisdom all the time, your energy. I feel like, myself included and anyone watching, I hope you were taking notes. Can learn so much through your energy and your knowledge and how much you go for things. So yes, I really would love this to be a part 2 as well, because I feel like there's so much more that I want to know, and I bet so much more everyone else wants to know too, who is in business. So yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you so
Love
much.
it. Thank you so much
Let's
for having
go.
me. I appreciate it. And it wouldn't be right if we didn't do the hoo-ha hoo together.
Let's go. All right, you
Ready?
ready? 3,
Yeah.
2, 1. Hoo.
Ooh.
Hoo.
Yeah. So I saw Josie touch her shoulders. I always just kind of like,
Oh,
you
I
have to,
don't know.
Like Wonder Woman.
yeah.
Whatever resonates with you, whatever resonates.
Yeah.
I think we can add like a 10x hoo-ha hoo.
Oh, 2, hoo, hoo.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
I love it. Thanks a lot, Thomas, for being here. We really appreciate you being on. Thank you, Josie, for all the powerful energy and everything you keep bringing and all the work you're doing. Thank you guys for tuning in for today's episode. We hope that you found it informative and engaging. We really enjoyed having you guys here, enjoyed making the episodes. Please consider liking, subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment, your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. They're so important to us. We value your feedback. We would love to hear from you. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell and help us send this out to as many people as possible. We want to help anybody and everybody we can to reach their freedom lifestyle. So we'll be back again on another episode this next Sunday. Stay tuned, keep learning. And you know what we always say in the FLC? Welcome to the family, where once you're family for life. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.